Becoming the Queen of Talk TV, a book by Morayo Afolabi Brown. Chapter 2 has this Omo Jaye Jaye Omo Jesu. Should I let you do the translation of that one?
I don't even know the translation in English. You might as well help me.
Omo Jaye Jaye Party Goer.
Yes.
Jesus baby.
Yes,
kind of stuff.
How
Okay.
I converted, yes.
Okay, so this chapter actually talks about Morayo's conversion. You talked about your mom. I know your mom is a huge influence on your life.
Yes.
And I feel like when I was reading it, I felt you needed to explain why you converted. And at a point, I felt you weren't even talking to whoever the reader was. You're actually talking to your family members, like, cut my mom some slack. It's not as if she wasn't good enough. It's not as if she had no influence. And I know, well, we are in Nigeria. Family members would have talked about how your mom probably had no influence on you growing up. I actually felt you were speaking to them, not just the people reading the book.
Well, I guess you can say it that way. I was born and raised in an Islamic home, and my mother was devout. My dad wasn't, although he would rather you not be a Christian. But he was a Muslim, but he wasn't a practicing Muslim. My mother was practicing, and I think that for me it was more of an opportunity conversion, because I was in Corona, and Fridays we the Muslims used to go to mosque. We used to have an imam there, we pray. And Sundays, instead of staying back in the hostel, because usually we just sleep in the hostel, but usually just staying back in the hostel because the church was in the school actually. So all our friends are walking down to the campus for service. Sometimes we just follow them. So it was from the continuous following them that I eventually gave my life to Christ, because the pastor, the pastor would preach, but then we didn't think it was a big deal. They never used to follow us to mosques. But we used to follow them to church because it was available, and that's how it happened. And
I also see you talk about the discipline you received from Mrs. Adeshokon, and especially the long hair part.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So,
and then even your friends who helped you with the conversion. I found it interesting that you remember their names.
Oh, Eloho and Stephen Obasohan. Yes, those are the two people that led me to Christ. Yes, I think it was more Stephen, but Eloho was not the follower person, making sure, because she was in the hostel with me and she read the Bible with me and make sure that I wasn't going back. I mean, those days now we used to be really gym. We were making, our job was to go into the world.
Yes,
converting people. So it was really, really interesting that I remember them, and they definitely had an impact in my life.
So you left Corona eventually, and then you went to another secondary school in VI.
Yes, Adrau.
Yeah, Adrau.
That was for a term. It was when we called it in Corona the Exodus, I think we call it. That was because many of us left Corona. They increased our school fees to 90,000 naira. It was as if we had never heard of that kind of figure before. All our parents were like, 90,000, how? Hell, everybody went crazy. So many parents couldn't afford it anymore. And my father was like, what, I can't afford to be sending you, especially when my other siblings were going to I think a model college, or they're going to the University of Lagos, and you are here going to private school. Private school, I never even wanted you to go in the first place, but your mother is the one doing the additional money. So he was like, he was not going to continue paying that kind of money for private school. That's why I had to leave. So I had to go to Adrau for it. I think I was also there for a term before I eventually went to the US.
Did moving schools affect you in any way?
No, because I was in the main schools for a long period of time. So they were just like interim movements. So yes, but it did affect me, because all my friends that were supposed to graduate together, I didn't see them. So even when I traveled abroad, many of my friends, we didn't graduate together. We were kind of just scattered all over the place. So those of us that experienced that major exodus in Corona, we kind of knew each other, but we just did not stick together like we should have if we had actually graduated together. Those who graduated together were more closer. But many of us who left during that exodus, we kind of just lost touch. Everybody just scattered around the world.
Now let's talk about the cultural influence of finishing your education, high school in particular, abroad. People don't talk about that. Most parents abroad tend to send their children to finish secondary school in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But in your case, it was the other way around. What effect did it have on you?
Well, as I said, so Adrau was an interim, and after I got there, we got the visa and we traveled to the US, and I had to go finish my secondary school there. It was a culture shock. It was really hard in the beginning. It was somewhat because in Nigeria our learning is a bit more intense. Yeah. So I remember I will never forget. I will share this story when I had biology test, and I was there studying up on all the diagrams. You know how in Nigeria you have to, there was a cockroach, and you have to label all the cockroach in Nigeria and everything. In America, they gave us the cockroach, they labeled it, and they just, they just told you, they will not leave maybe 1 or 2 blank. And I'm thinking, is this biology? this what, so, and even also when we were doing our test, I just came that day to test, and they were carrying calculator. I said, calculator, okay. So yes, you bring a calculator. I said, I left it at home. Why would you leave a calculator at home? I said, I thought it was exam. We're coming for exam now. Why would you take a calculator? I said, you have to calculate. So they don't want you to they don't want you to put they want to memorize the formula in your head. Just know how to use the calculator. So these were differences in learning that I had to be facing with from when you went to a country where you're different from the people. So it was really hard for me in the beginning, but eventually I adjusted.
Now, the adjustment also came with certain things. You mentioned how you tried your best to... Okay, let me not get ahead. In all of this, the chapter, it was more focused on your conversion.
Yes.
Yeah, and I dare say, when you look back, do you have any regrets? Do you wish things were different?
I actually wished my mother had taught me Islam properly, because I love the fact I'm a Christian, no doubt about that. But I wished I had information about Islam, because I didn't have information about Islam. And it's quite painful that even though I would have probably eventually become a Christian, but I would have loved to know that religion more than hearing from outside, learning, being an adult and knowing what Islam stood for and the various values around Islam. It was I wish they had taught me. Now, if I now become a Christian, it was based on my decision, but I think that was what happened, that I had to convert to Christianity.
And yes, let's not forget your dad's reaction.
Oh yeah, don't worry, buy the book for that one.
That's why I was like, go read it.
I've actually shared it on different places before, but I think they can read the book to get the difference.
Yes,
that was a memorable experience. My father, that man, yeah, but he spoke to me because he was like, listen, before you were born, they told us Jesus Christ is coming. Let me tell you, he's not coming. He's not coming anyway. Don't mind them, they're lying to you. So, whatever.
If you've gone through your own conversion story, you'll probably be able to relate with it when you read it. Because let's just say, Morayo was like this when the incident was happening. Like,
dramatic.
Very dramatic. Very, very. Well, the last line of this chapter, the last paragraph rather, on page 24, talks about your mother being a party goer and a high-profile Lagos woman.
Yeah.
And there's a part that struck me as well. When you said, today I understand better that my mother sought acceptance amongst her friends and in numerous parties, but in the real sense, she was a godly woman dedicated to family.
Yes, she actually was.
Your description of your mom tells that she was that kind of woman.
Yes, she was. She was very popular back then, and this was her town. She used to paint the town red, goes to the, like I said, she had money. So there's no lace you call. My mother would buy her own, So my mother was very doing well. But I think really it was just her own way of running away from all the issues she had, in her home. Everybody has one thing they're dealing with or the other. So, but really and truly, she was just a godly woman. She prayed 5 times daily. She used to observe her zakat, the 5 various pillars of Islam. She used to observe it, and she was very dedicated. She was a dedicated Muslim. Yeah, she was a good woman.
Right. So, with that, we've come to the end of chapter 2. We'll definitely take a look at chapter 3 shortly. While telling you to go get the book, I think, Morayo, you should tell us where can we get it?
So the books are available at Roving Heights. You can, those of you that love reading books at Roving Heights, please, you can pick it up there. Also, you can go to my website, kabitimedia.com. You can also send me a DM. It's also fine. I will see your request on my DMs, and I'll be happy to respond. You can also go on my page, Morayo Brown. You see all the various phone numbers. I have my flyers there. And it's also on Amazon. For those of you living abroad, it's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. You can order online. And we'll be happy to deliver to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Looking forward to sending you a copy.